like.
Well, this is one of the big criticisms is, so a lot of guys, not all men, some guys are fine when they're in their younger years. A lot of guys will struggle with dating in their late teens, 20s, up to mid 20s, late 20s even. And they'll get curved by these women when they're younger, while these women are chasing around like the really hot dudes, whatever, in their 20s. And then these women will be like, okay, I want to settle down with a nice guy provider, dude. And so what ends up happening is, like, a lot of guys will see that and be like, hold on. So you spent your 20s, arguably your best years, when you're most attractive, when you have the least baggage, the least trauma, the most feminine. You spent all that time having casual sex. Now you're 30, clock is ticking. You see me as a
retirement plan.
Fucking
retirement plan.
You see me as the nice guy, safe guy. You got me up. Back to the streets you go.
That goes both ways.
How does it go both ways?
Because men also be going all around town.
Well, here's the difference though, is that every single woman has access to hookup culture. Not all of them engage in the hookup culture, but far more women engage in hookup culture than do men. So what you end up happening is you have these hyper attractive men that'll fuck like 200 women, and then you'll have like a large portion of women who will have like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 body counts, perhaps not quite as high as these men who are just basically taking the lion's share of the women. And this is throughout high school, college, etc. And so far more women will have access to this hookup culture. So if 50% of women are engaging in hookup culture with 10% of the men, who's to blame really?
Both wouldn't be.
Right, but there's more, hold on, yes, but there's more women to be blamed. Does that make sense?
Well, what if the woman's just looking for a relationship, though, and all these guys are just like not taking her serious right now in her 20s? So she just has to keep going guy after guy because nobody's going to take her seriously.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Guys aren't interested.
Wait, hold on. Because she's picking men. One, all you women, you pick the men that you're with, one. And then secondly, you tend to have very terrible appraisals of one. We already talked about this rating thing, although we should have asked it before anyway. A lot of women have really terrible appraisals of their own attractiveness and then the men that they can get in a relationship. So there's this differential whereby a guy will sleep with a girl who's he would never consider being in a relationship with just based off of her looks. So she could be like unattractive, but he'll still sleep with her. He'll keep her around for casual sex. Women typically don't do that. And so what ends up happening is you women have sexual access to men who are above what you can reasonably expect to lock down for long-term commitment. So you women can sleep outside of your league, whether that's status, whether that's money, whether that's looks, right? A 19-year-old woman who's just hot and attractive, who has 1,000 followers on Instagram, she can go an NBA player, an NFL player. These are very high status men who make good money, who are typically very attractive. And so what ends up happening there is, whereas you think an average looking 19-year-old guy can out of his league? No, he can't. So there's this sort of differential that's happening. So like I said, essentially you have 10% of men who are just crushing it. The rest of the men get scraps or get nothing. And then you got like 50% of the women who are engaging in this sort of hookup culture.
I feel like those 10% of men, they might not be able to like hook up with just anybody, but they have a really good chance at wifing a girl because not all girls go for guys that like look better.
Wait, no, the 10% of men are the hyper attractive men that like the vast majority of women.
The other ones.
The vast majority, so the 90% of men?
Yeah. You know how many ugly guys are with pretty girls?
But this goes back to women.
Not many.
This actually goes back to women, one, being terrible appraisals, or making terrible appraisals of their own physical attractiveness, and making terrible appraisal of what they think their equivalent is in terms of a partner. And this can be looks, it could be other things. But if you look at, there's this really great, Austin, if you can pull it up, this one of the dating sites called OkCupid. It's in the Dropbox podcast infographics folder. Let me see where it is. It's called the OKC. OKC. And so, if you can pull that up quick.
What was that?
That was me.
It was you? Oh, was that you?
I think.
What?
No.
I didn't. Infographics. Do you have it? Okay. So essentially, what this graph is going to show is that men tend to rate women pretty reasonably, bell curve, whereas women are very, very harsh judges of male attractiveness. Do you have it?
Yeah, the majority of, yeah.
Okay, so hold on. I'll say it again. So just Dropbox folder, podcast folder, infographics folder.
Yeah, the data's skewed to the left, I think.
And what's the follow-up?
Okay, see?
I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
Like, does the way that the men actually present themselves and like their assertiveness, just because like with your case, for example, like they didn't go, they didn't like try, they were more introverted. Does that play any role in their like attractiveness and why they're not getting the women?
That's the strongest predictor.
Hold on,
yes.
sorry. What do you?
I'm trying to pull it up, it's not.
Can you drag it?
Yeah, let me try that.
That's what you should do. You should drag it. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, she said, does extroversion play a role? A man actually approaching a woman and being assertive, and that is the number one predictor of the ability, a man's ability to get women. You have to approach women. Most men, the men that don't get women, they don't even approach women. That's what I said earlier. I said a lot of guys are scared to even approach women.
Yeah.
So the more women you approach, the more women you're probably going to get.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah,
okay,
so.
that's what I thought.
But most men also don't want to play Russian roulette with their self-esteem too.
That's true.
Like most men do not have the corresponding conversational skills or charisma.
So you don't think that's on men, that's the reason why they're not getting women?
Women don't have it either.
But
Women
they
don't have
like-
what?
Most women. Well, here it's not a fair comparison because
we go off their looks.
Like no, but if a girl approaches a man, their level of success is just automatically going to be orders of magnitude greater than a man to begin with. So, and also men are typically not going to be like, most men don't get approached. So if a woman does approach a man,
it's rare.
Even if she's unattractive, he'll take it. He'll be very polite about it. Whereas most women are typically going to, like, if they're not attracted to guy, immediate like creep fear response. And like, it's going to,
Legit.
it's going, not only is it going to, like, if there's other people around, like, that's not a good thing. Let's pull it up really quick.
But don't you think that women, Brian, if they want to be approached, tend to put themselves in a situation with a guy where they will be? So yeah, like, I agree that most of the time women won't approach men for a date. But my kind of disagreement on this comes up when I look at dating dynamics. Women, if they want a guy and a guy's not approaching them, they seem to present themselves in such a way where they make it very well known that they would like him to.
Yeah.
Well, what
And
is
the guy still does
what is
that.
the context in which they are doing this?
So it could be things like they just talk to him a lot more in a social setting than the other guys. They're a bit more flirtatious, things like this.
Yep.
They're not just like coldly walking over and approaching and saying, "Hey, hot guy, you want to go out to the moon?" Right? They don't do that, but it does seem like they put themselves in situations where they're around this particular individual much more to kind of signal to him that I want you to ask for more. Right?
For example, the last girl, remember the girl that I was involved with all basically last year when I came on the show, and I was like, I was talking to her. The way that we started was when I was working at our university rec center as a student. She would run the track every day, and one day she ran by me, and I turned around and looked at her, and when she looked at me, she gave me a little eye roll and smirk, like yes, like that. And I said, "Yo, come here," like that. And she got up and came to me. We started having a conversation, and then one thing led to another, and we just started dating. But had she never did that, I would have never known that she was interested. I knew she was interested.
Well,
because
they
I knew
tell
how to read it.
their, I mean, at least when I was younger, like they tell their friends, right? And then their friends would, it would somehow get back to you in the grapevine and shit. Like they have ways of letting you know that they're interested without ever telling you they're interested.
But I mean, so I think this would fall back to women's hypergamous nature. So they're going to do this for the top 10, maybe top 20% of men. That leaves 80% of men never receiving that sort of even covert sort of subtextual initiative, token initiative that women will display. So, I mean...
But then are they showing the interest in that case at all? Those 80% of men, are they showing that they're interested in any way?
Yeah, and they're getting rejected.